Now, this hasn't happened before in a long time. I was cut off at the most interesting part. Well, one of the most interesting. I will continue. This is part two of the live stream about Uzbekistan, the wars in Russia, and other news. Now, I was caught up on Turkey. I'll repeat it. On September 11th, President of Turkey Recep Erdogan stated that the conflict in Ukraine should be finished soon, should be ended with a fair and lasting peace. Great. But he added, in that peace, Russia would be obliged to return the annexed territory of Crimea and other occupied areas to Ukraine. Erdogan emphasized that the reintegration of Crimea into Ukraine is the demand of international law. And that is incredibly interesting, folks. This is huge. Now, this is a symbolic move by Erdogan that shows that he is burning the bridges with Russia, with Vladimir Putin. As we know, the relations between Erdogan and Putin in 2024 were very sour, have been very sour. But before they had some kind of a friendship, at least what Putin thought, and he was bragging about it. He bragged many times that him and Erdogan are friends. Well, Erdogan turned out to be not his friend, but a politician with interests. And Turkey shut down all trade with Russia right at the beginning of 2024. And Vladimir Putin was trying for months and months to arrange a meeting with Erdogan. And he failed. He finally met him not too long ago in Kazakhstan at one of the international summits. And they had a very short meeting, but Erdogan basically didn't pay attention to Putin. And now Erdogan kind of putting a big, fat, black dot at the end of the sentence. Chick. That's it. Russia must stop fighting. The Ukraine must, Crimea must be returned to Ukraine, and all other annexed territories must be returned to Ukraine. That is the demand of international law. Period. Big, big dot. Boom. Stamp. That's it. One less lie. And now it's official. And Turkey is not a mediator anymore. Turkey is nothing to Russia, or actually Russia is nothing to Turkey. The next news comes from Germany. And the Interior Minister Nancy Fraser, I hope I pronounced the last name right, ordered the introduction of controls on all Germans' land borders starting September 16th. And, well, this regime is going to last for about 6 months, and, then I guess it'll be decided if further time limits will be imposed or this regime will be lifted. These measures serve to further limit illegal migration into Germany and protect against the acute threat of economic terrorism. Now, I saw this news, but I don't really have an opinion on it. So I want to ask, what do you think? Please let me know down in the comments if you have any opinion on this measure, especially if you're German or you know quite a bit of Germany. What do you think? How are you feeling about that? I'd love to hear it. The next news comes from Joseph Biden. Well, turns out he's lost in Moscow. Russian TV channel called TNT and the 123 production film company have started filming the TV series called Goodbye. That's just like that in English, Goodbye. About an imaginary journey of the US President Joe Biden to Russia. The TV series creators say that according to the script, Joe Biden wants to figure out for himself why his sanctions don't work against Russians. And he decides to fly to Russia to understand the Russian soul, mysterious Russian soul. Joe Biden loses his documents on the first day, but he finds a new friend, a real Russian patriot. Now Biden is forced to live in an ordinary tiny Soviet apartment, to work as an English teacher to save up some money, to return to America. It's a comedy, or it's supposed to be. American sanctions don't work. That's funny. Very funny. I'll watch it, and I'm sure I'll have a good laugh. But I wonder if all Russians watching the comedy will laugh. I wonder if the mothers and the wives of the mobilized men who have been sent to Ukraine to die will laugh. I wonder if those who now pay 80% of their regular income or more paying off bank loans, and there are tens of millions of Russians like that, I wonder if they will laugh. I wonder if retired old people receiving peanuts, sometimes less than peanuts, and barely getting by, will they laugh? Let's find out. Let's see when the Joe Biden comedy is released. Let's see how many Russian people will be laughing. The next news again comes from Russia, and it concerns America again. It comes from Maria Zakharova, the official representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, and she claims that the US president election race has turned into Halloween. That was exactly what she said in an interview to Russian propaganda informational agency called TASS. I quote Zakharova. "What kind of race is this? This is some kind of a Halloween. Sorry. Because these are not candidates who defend their positions. This is some kind of absolute madness. The monstrous theater of the absurd." Unquote. Now, America is the monstrous theater of the absurd. And that is coming from one of the top Russian government officials. I have one question. If America's president election race is the monstrous theater of the absurd, how do they explain Russian elections then? In what words? How to them, or to everyone else, the elections in Russia look like? How these elections can be described in words? I think what Zakharova said is the most absurd statement I've heard in quite some time. And trust me, I have heard a lot of absurd statements. Oh, before I jump to the last news, I'd like to ask you a favor. Help. Please pick 3 news that you like the most today and let me know down below what they are. It'll help me to prepare better in the future. Thank you so much. And the last and the most important news of the week comes from Uzbekistan. I would like to talk about Uzbekistan in the place where I live. It's a former Soviet republic. For the past 33 years, it's been independent. It has distanced itself from Russia, and right at the beginning, it hasn't participated in any unions, military or social, with Russia. Uzbekistan is a unique country. It is truly neutral. There have been many attempts made by Russia to partner up with Uzbekistan more, but every time Russia failed miserably. The last two attempts I witnessed not too long ago. Putin visited Uzbekistan with official message agenda. He was greeted with a smile and great hospitality, and he was assured friendship. And at the end, Putin achieved nothing. He just left with empty hands. Russia has been pushed away by Uzbekistan, and three countries have been kind of allowed in: Turkey, the USA, and China. And there's a big area of battle going on for the influence in this country. These three countries, Turkey, the USA, and China, they exert much more influence over Uzbekistan than Russia now. But guess what? Uzbekistan has always been balancing between Russia and the others. It never said no to anything. It always left doors open. Uzbek leaders are true models of magnificent Eastern-style diplomacy. Well, it looks like Uzbekistan has finally shut down that door for Russia. It took a very firm step into the direction away from Russia. Judge for yourself. There were some kind of secret negotiations taking place in August in many countries. Okay, when the Ukrainians rolled in and occupied a good size of Kursk province, Russia's commander-in-chief immediately flew to Azerbaijan to talk to its president. Instead of trying to get the Russian land back, instead of commanding the army, whatever he's going to be commanding as the commander-in-chief, instead of that, he flew abroad. He abandoned Russia. So the negotiations were done in Azerbaijan, and now, right after, Azerbaijani president urgently visited Uzbekistan. Literally, when Putin's plane took off, the Azerbaijani president flew to Uzbekistan unexpectedly. Well, obviously, was some kind of negotiations happening. And soon after, the Uzbekistan did something it usually doesn't do. It signed a firm agreement with the USA. Uzbekistan became another country that agreed to exchange customs information with the United States of America. The information of the supplies of parallel imports and dual-use goods that go through Uzbekistan to Russia will be released to the USA. Following Kazakhstan, the Customs Committee of Uzbekistan signed an agreement on cooperation and mutual assistance with the USA. U.S. Border and Customs Service now is cooperating with the Uzbek Border and Customs Service. It was the first meeting of this kind of format since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the United States and Uzbekistan 32 years ago. So we can call it the breakthrough. And Uzbekistan became only the 18th country with which the United States signed such an agreement. Sounds like a pretty darn big deal to me. The agreement provides for U.S. assistance to digitize Uzbekistan's customs services to promote information exchange between countries' customs, as well as strengthen joint efforts to combat drug trafficking, human trafficking, transactional crimes, financial crimes, money laundering, and customs evasions. Blah, 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 blah. The main reason we understand perfectly well: to tighten secondary sanctions against Russia. I don't think there's much of drug trafficking happens between the United States and Uzbekistan. Kind of like, far from each other, and it's not significant. I think the eyes of the USA are different places when we talk about drug trafficking or human trafficking. That's definitely not Uzbekistan. This agreement means that the US authorities will receive a large amount of information about export-import flows passing through Uzbekistan. And this situation will create big problems to the companies and people associated with Russia. Since 2022, Uzbekistan has become an important intermediary country to circumvent Western sanctions. I kind of have been looking at the process. A lot of people came after the mobilization, started setting up companies here and so forth, and that's about to end. And that is a huge blow to Russia. Financially, it's a huge blow. It's one less door, back door, to circumvent the sanctions. And guess what? It's a huge blow to Russian-Uzbekistan relations. I'd say it's irreversible. The agreement has been signed with the Americans, okay? Well, Russia immediately acted. It started approaching Uzbekistan with something sweet. Carrots. It offered Uzbekistan to give access to GLONASS space positioning system, Russian alternative to American GPS. Vladimir Putin agreed to hold talks with Tashkent, and as far as I know, Uzbekistan has not responded to that generous offer. Another ally, another friend, another neighbor turning away from Russia. Uzbekistan divorces Russia, or at least it starts divorcing. That agreement has been signed and sealed, and big fat dot was placed, right at the end of the sentence. At this point, it's too difficult to predict Russia's future. Too many things can happen. Too many circumstances. We don't know of them, okay? All of them will alter future. But one thing I can positively tell you for sure, and you can mark my words, and we'll talk about it after it happens. At the end, Russia will be alone in the world, and it'll be very lonely. Now, please check another video I made, how Russia has been hit by a series of huge explosions and what effect that's going to have. The link is right over here.